Howdy, and welcome to the channel. And today we're going to be unboxing, assembling, and using this Bora Portamate mobile base assembly. So I picked this up off of Amazon.com, and it's the Bora Portamate mobile base model PM3500, and it has a weight capacity of up to 1,500 pounds or 680 kilograms. This is made for different types of power tools, including table saws, bandsaws, planers, joiners, shapers, spindle sanders, and of course, what we're going to be using it for, the big Harbor Freight drill press. It has the Easy Glide locking levers on it, so after you move it in place for where you're going to be needing to use the equipment at, you simply push down the locking levers and it will lock the item onto the floor. This has 3-inch ball bearing wheels and casters so that it can roll very smoothly across your shop floor. You can also purchase the Bora PM3036 extension rail kit. It's sold separately, but it includes two 36-inch extension rails so that you can actually increase the size of the tool that you can put on here. This is adjustable in 1-inch increments, so it will definitely have a variety of sizes that you can make it with. And it adjusts from 20.75 inches by 23.75 inches up to 28 by 33.5 inches. For those of you who are my metric viewers, it's 53 by 60 centimeters up to 71 by 85 centimeters. Now I tried finding a US based or a Canada based one that I could purchase. Unfortunately, I couldn't find one. This one's from Taiwan, but I couldn't find anybody in America that sold a quality product like this. I found some that were plastic, but with the weight of my shop press, I didn't want to have something that was made out of plastic. I wanted something that was actually metal and could withstand rolling around through years and years of usage. I don't want something that's temporary. I want a permanent solution for what I'm using it for. So during the unboxing, you could actually see that for the most part, while it had bubble wrap on it, it wasn't very secure. So these items moved around. And if you look here on one of the first corner pieces that I pulled out, you can actually see there's nicks that are already happening here. We even have bare metal right in here where the paint itself has been fully pulled off of the weld. A little unfortunate. Bora, they could definitely do a better job of packing this to where those kinds of things don't happen. Some type of EPS foam in there would do great. Something along those lines to actually hold these items. But truthfully, in these sections, you're probably going to damage it anyway whenever you pick up your heavy piece of equipment and attempt to put it in here. But keep that in mind for those of you who are really, really crazy about that kind of stuff. You may want to get some touch-up paint to solve some of those problems. Even the lever itself, that is the actual lockdown lever, you can see here, we have a scratch in the paint, and that's actually gone all the way down to the bare metal. These were just bubble wrap. It should have been something more than bubble wrap so those kinds of things don't happen. The nice thing about it though is you look, the welds are actually decent. They're not amazing welds, but they're not bad welds either. All of the welds in here look very sufficient. I don't believe there's going to be any issues. The reason I bring up the welds is because there are other kits out there that actually have big problems with their welds. They are not done very well, and you can see that they fail very rapidly. There's all sorts of pictures on Amazon of different manufacturers who are having weld quality issues. The casters themselves are of pretty decent quality. I actually really like it. It has a harder material that's on it, so it's not going to get squished. It's not going to get flat spotted, especially with something that's going to hold up to 1,500 pounds. You don't want something that's going to flat spot on you, because then trying to get it to roll from that point is going to be hellaciously bad. So I do like the quality, and the casters that are on the front are of equal quality, same type of material for the wheels. So there are some out there where they have a thinner spindle, and a lot of people have issues with the wheels actually collapsing under the weight. Even of a 200-pound shop press, it ends up collapsing the wheels. So I wanted to make sure that I had something nice and beefy that could withstand years of punishment. So there's two different ways that you can assemble this depending on how you want your front locking mechanism and casters to be positioned. I'm going to go ahead and assemble it the first way because we want to actually take our shop press and push it up into a corner, and that will allow us to get it further into the corner. Do whichever method you prefer on yours, but for us, we're gonna go with the first one. So the way this assembly works is we're gonna have levers that are gonna come and they're gonna push down on this plunger, which has a spring around it on the inside. And that's actually going to lift the caster up off the ground and place these down. And these are adjustable, so you can actually unscrew this if you need to in order to get more depth out of it. So to start the assembly, we're gonna take our first lever or lever, depending on where you're at in the world. We're going to give it a slight push down so that we can align the hole here. And what we do is we're gonna take one of our thinner bolts. It's an M8 bolt. We're gonna take an M8 flat washer, slide it through there, and then we're going to slide this into position, put it all the way through, and then on the other side, we're going to put another M8 flat washer and then a nylock nut to lock it all down with. Now with washers, just so you guys are aware, a lot of you know this, these are stamped out of a big giant machine and it goes really, really quick. Well, the problem is you have a smooth side on a flat washer and a harsh side on a flat washer. If you put that harsh side towards your metal, whenever you start cranking down on it, it's actually going to cut into your paint. Even something like this powder coating, it's going to cut into that. If you're in an area with a lot of moisture, that little bit can start causing you rust within that section. I always take my washers and I put the smooth side to the metal because it's easy and cheap to replace bolts and nuts. It is not easy and cheap to come in and try to repair this metal once it starts rusting really bad. So just keep that in mind whenever it comes to using washers. We also need to attach our caster, and these have big giant nuts on top of them already.
That's what she said.
We're just gonna take it off and then slide it into position and just get it snug for now. We'll come back and tighten these once I have the other side done as well. For our nut that's on top of our caster, we're going to be using an 18mm socket. You may have to use some channel locks to hold here on the swivel point so that you can actually get this torqued down the way that you need to. On the bolt that's going through the foot, the bolt itself is going to be a 14mm and the nut is going to be a 13mm. Whenever we put our bolt here through the lever, you don't want to end up bending these tabs in, because if you do, you're gonna pinch the lever or lever arm here. And so whenever you pull it down, it's gonna end up scraping your paint really bad. You're already gonna get paint having damage whenever it's pushing on here, which I'm gonna put some grease on these before I call it good. But you want to have this loose in here, and it can actually wobble a little bit from side to side if you look, and that's perfectly fine. It's not going to cause you any problems, but if you squeeze it down really tight, then the lever isn't going to work the way that you want it to work. So on our other caster assembly, we have the wheel, and then we're going to be taking one of our larger bolts and our large flat washer. We put the large flat washer on, we slide our caster up, and we just slide it through. Now the instructions say that you're supposed to have a nylock nut to go with this, but the nut is actually welded in up here. The other thing you'll notice is this wheel has a lot of play on it, and more important, as it comes down and it presses against the outer body, the wheel is actually dragging against the outer metal. So what I'm gonna do to solve that is I happen to have a couple of these additional washers from another project I was working on. So these are M10 bolts and washers. So I've got the one washer already on here. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this and just slide it through, and I'm gonna put the round side towards the metal. Then I'm gonna take my caster, bring it up and through, and slide the bolt through the caster. Now it's gonna start sliding through the other side, and you'll see it right there. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this washer, and we're actually going to slide it down in between. And you have to kind of work it a little bit to get it over the lip. So now we have that wheel in. Now watch this wheel. That wheel has no play in it whatsoever. So here is the other wheel with the regular bolt going through. And not only does it have a lot of play, you're actually rubbing up against the metal on this side, which is eventually going to damage the paint finish on the inside here. So that's why we've done this, because look at that wheel. And now our wheel is being held purposefully away on this side. Now, if you can't fit a flat washer on both sides, no problem. Put one on this side and leave this side without a washer, because you have the nut here that's going to hold it away from this paint. And that's the primary aspect of what we're worried about here, is making sure our paint is good. The additional slop that's in the wheel like this isn't as critical as it is trying to make sure that we don't damage our unit over time through rust. So now comes the slightly more difficult part, and that is getting it underneath your machine. Now in our instance, it's this central machinery drill press that we have here. But what we need to do is we need to get the measurements and put this up underneath it here in just a little bit. Now there's a couple of ways you can do that. One, you can get out a measuring tape and you can actually measure it and figure the whole thing out. Or what you can do is you can actually slide these parts together. Now we know this assembly is going to be across the back of the machine here, and then we're gonna have the same with the front of the machine with the levers up here at the front. But we can very rapidly find our dimensions of what we need by simply bringing our piece over, putting it by the foot of the machine, and then moving until we hit the thresholds that we need with our holes that are here. With this particular machine, we're gonna be actually using our first holes on this. So we now know what holes we need to use on the sidebar. We need to wash, rinse, repeat for the depth of the machine. So we now have the depth of the machine. We have this brought up. This is going to be the front with our levers on the side, and we're going to do the same thing. I'm gonna find the holes that it needs to be in, and that will let us know precisely where we need to position this. So now that we have this side assembly complete, this is actually as far as we need to take it. You don't want to put the final side on it yet because we're going to tilt the machine and slide this up underneath it and then tilt it back, and that's whenever you actually slide the side pieces on. However, we need to assemble the other side, so let's go ahead and set this aside and finish assembling that section of the base. Now's whenever you're either gonna have to have some type of a hoist to hold this up in the air, a tractor that can pick it up, or a buddy that you can give a case of beer to come over and help you push this over and push this into the system, get it aligned and get the bolts put through the assembly and set in place so you can finish tightening it up. So now that we have our Bora cart fully assembled, you can see just how nice and easy this thing rolls around. I even left some of the debris that was underneath it down on the ground. You can see that there's oak leaves down here, and it rolls right over them without a problem. Everything does really good. Once you get into position to use it, you simply take these little kick pedals and kick them down, and now your system isn't going to be rolling around. You can use whatever piece of equipment you have on it. Now, our particular press has bolt holes that can go down through it here, down into the system, so I will be purchasing bolts to actually do that and bolt it down to this. But that way I can go ahead and not worry about this moving within the base. If I hit something that's big and heavy like a wrench, I don't have to worry about tipping this independent of this, and everything will work properly. It is recommended that you do these bolts on any piece of equipment that you're going to do like this. So that goes over the assembly and putting underneath your piece of equipment. equipment, this Bora machine dolly. This thing works really good so far. I'm really liking it. This is going to make it an absolute godsend for me to be able to move our big giant drill press anywhere we need to within our shop. And more importantly, now I can actually stick it back in a corner where I want to be able to put it, and it stays until I actually need it, and then I can pull it out. I will have the link for this in the description below. Right now, we don't have an Amazon affiliate, so if you click on it, nothing's coming to us in any way, shape, or form. If you have any questions about this particular tool or any of the tools behind me, please leave it in the comments below. We love great comments, especially ones like this one. Thank you for leaving that comment, and thank you for watching.